All right, so today we're going to be talking about 556 versus 223. What's the difference between them? Is one always more powerful than the other? So here's the thing: if when you look it up, right, the mo and if you look in different places, you're gonna find different information. But what you will generally find is that 556 has a slightly higher pressure than 223. Okay, now the flaw with that is that when they test 556, okay, they use a different method to test it, and when they test 223, they use a different method to test that. Okay, so when they apply the same method, the same testing method to both of them, right, to the same exact ammunition, they both pressure pretty much the same, okay? So that's one of the things to be aware of when you're looking at the different pressures. 556 shows a higher pressure, but they use a different method to test that versus 223. So I decided to like kind of test it out on my own and find out for myself. And the best way to do that is to basically run it through a chronograph and see what kind of energy that we're getting out of it. Okay, so the more energy that is being generated, the more pressure you would think you would have. Generally, it's a good way to figure out which one is more powerful. Now, the two that I was interested in was this Wolf Gold, okay, which is quoted as 223, and this Wolf WM193, which is basically categorized as 556. Okay, so the reason why I was interested in these two is because this is considered cheap range ammo, cheap target ammo. However, out of 18-inch barrels, right, both on this Ruger MPR and also on my Palmetto 223 Wild, at 100 yards with this target ammunition, I've been able to hit 1-inch groups quite consistently. Not all the time, but pretty consistently. Okay, so this is 1 MOA ammunition. I mean, sometimes it might get down to like a .75, but on average, I come in at about 1 inch at 100 yards with this target ammo. Okay, so one they call it 556, the other one they call it 223. And I basically decided, hey, let me run this through the chronograph and see what type of velocity I get out of it, and then I'll see what type of energy it generates. Okay, so with the Wolf Gold, which is this one over here, I ran it through the chronograph, 5-shot group. Okay, Wolf Gold 5.5 shoot, 55 grains, velocity 3,028. Okay, giving an energy of 1120. Okay, and then I ran a 5-shot group with this Wolf WM193, which is basically called 556 for whatever reason. So that's this the Wolf WM193 556. The velocity on this was actually slower. It was 2937, giving an energy of 1053. Okay, so we got 1120 versus 1153 energy. Okay, so interestingly enough, the 223. Okay, again, this is both from Wolf, both Russian-made ammunition. The 223 actually had a slightly higher energy, which means that it probably has a slightly higher pressure. Okay. Now you might say that, you know what, it's Russian ammunition. Russians get everything backwards. Who knows? I mean, I don't know the reason for this. I'm just stating the facts as they as they come up on the chronograph. Okay, so I then decided, hey, let's run some Tula through this, right? Some Tula, just for shits and giggles. Let's see what I get out of Tula. So with Tula, which is quoted as 223, velocity on that was 2972, so still faster than this Wolf 193 for an energy of 1078, right? So a little bit hotter than that 193. Not quite as hot as the Wolf Gold. So that Wolf Gold is good stuff. Now the difference is that Tula, you typically get a 2.5, 2.5 to 3 MOA, right? 2.5, about 2.5 inches. The best I get at 100 yards about 2.5 inches with Tula versus 1 inch with these other ones over there. Now, just for curiosity's sake, I also pulled out some military ammo, right? Or I mean, it's federal. They sell it to you in this military ammo can, so it's military-like, right? So now, first of all, we got green tips here. Yeah, these are the green tips. The what is the 855, right? Yeah, I always forget what the first numbers are. XM855. And I also have XM193 over here, okay? And these are both from Federal. The XM193 is just 55, it's 55 grains. The green tips are 62 grains, so it is a little bit heavier. So I ran that to the chronograph, and I was curious to see just how it was going to compare. So the green tips, right, the 855, actually came out the hottest, okay? The velocity on that was 3,015, but that's with a 62 grain bullet. So the energy on that is 1252, right? So the energy is a calculated number, okay? It's you square the velocity, multiply it by the weight of the bullet, and divide it by a conversion factor 450240, okay? So that's how you calculate the energy. So the energy on the green tip is 1252. So that's the hottest one on here. And then the Federal XM193, that's a 55 grain. The velocity on that was 3131, and then the energy on that was 1198. Now, because especially in this case, because the green tip is the only one that's 62 grains in this list, you can't just, that's the reason why you can't just look at velocity. You have to look at the energy, which basically takes into account the weight of the bullet, okay? So when you look at this column over here, the energy, make sure there's the camera. Back it up a little bit. Yeah. So when you look at the energy, so like up here, between the two Wolves, the 223 had a little bit more energy than the 556 Wolf. Okay. Now these two, like I said, these are getting 1 inch at 100 yards. These three down here, right? The Tula, the 855 green tips, and the Federal XM193. These all get about 2.5 inches at 100 yards. Okay. So the Wolf is actually a lot more is more accurate. Okay. That's something I can take out to 600 yards and plus. Whereas, this military ammo down here, or so-called military ammo, because of that 3-inch group, yeah, when you get out to 600 yards, it's a little hard to hit the target, okay? But with the Federal stuff down here, the green tips are the hottest, with an energy of 1252. So between the fact that it's delivering more energy, plus it has like a steel core. Well, I mean, it's kind of weird. It's like a steel rod inside of the bullet. If you need, and certainly if you're going up against armor, I would, especially at close range, I would definitely go with the 855s, okay, with the green tips. But if you need to hit targets, 300 yards plus, I would probably go with this Wolf stuff, right? Because the Wolf stuff is getting those 1-inch groups. You get a better chance of hitting things at distance with the more accurate ammunition. Okay, so this is this is the reason why you gotta have a chronograph, do your accuracy testing, but also do your energy calculations, and know exactly what you're delivering out there. Yeah, I mean, I find this interesting stuff. There was one more thing I wanted to add, but that, quick pause the camera, see if I remember. Oh, so I remembered what I wanted to add, and I have mentioned this at some point in some prior video. The real difference between 5.56 and 2.23, okay? It's not in the ammunition, okay? Because like I said, they both pressure the same if you use the same method to pressure test them, okay? The difference is not in the ammunition. It is in the chamber of the rifle, okay, in the chamber of the barrel. That's where the difference is. And the reason for that is because 5.56 is a military caliber, and sometimes the military uses tracer rounds, okay? So in order to have a tracer round, let me get a bullet out here. So if you're going to have a tracer round, that means that there's going to be some type of a chemical inside of the bullet, so that when the bullet goes downrange, it leaves a trail behind, right? So in order for that to happen, the bullet itself has to be a little bit bigger. So the 5.56 bullets are not necessarily bigger, but they can be bigger because of the tracer chemical that's inside of the bullet. So that's why 5.56 chambers are a little bit bigger in order to accommodate a slightly fatter tracer bullet. Now, if you're only shooting lead bullets downrange, obviously you're not going to have a fatter bullet, so that's not an issue. But that's also the reason why a lot of times people will say that 223 is more accurate. Okay, the reason why that would be the case is because the 223 is always going to be tighter, right? Because there's no circumstances under which you'll be shooting tracer rounds out of a 223 rifle. So the chamber itself can be a little bit tighter versus the 5.56 chamber, which needs to be a little bit fatter to allow for the tracer rounds. So that's because it's a little bit tighter fitting. That's the reason why the 223 can be a little bit more accurate. Not that it always is, but it can be a little bit more accurate. And the idea with the 223 Wild barrel, right, the 223 Wild, is that it kind of tries to mix the best of both worlds. I mean, I've got a 223 Wild barrel. I've got a 5.56 barrel over here. They're both 18 inches with this same ammunition over here, this Wolf. They both, the 223 Wild and the 5.56, they both get about 1 inch at 100 yards, so they're both equally accurate with this. When I put in 77 grain Sierra Match Kings, both the 5.56 and the 223 Wild, they both get half-inch groups at 100 yards. Okay, so I haven't seen a major difference in accuracy, but in case you were wondering, now you know what the true difference is with the 5.56 barrel, with the 5.56 versus the 223. The difference is not in the ammunition. The difference is with the chamber of the barrel. 5.56 barrel has a slightly larger chamber to accommodate tracer rounds. Okay, so thanks for watching. Drop some comments below. Let me know what you think. If you have some additional information, okay, I don't pretend to know everything. If you go back and you watch videos from years ago, I didn't know all the stuff I know now, right? If you go in the future and you watch videos in the future, I expect I'll know more things than I know now. So this is a constant learning process, okay? That's what we're all here doing. So if you guys have some additional information to add, please put it in the comments, and I'll talk to you all soon.